The atmosphere inside the first-class cabin of Aurora Skies Airlines was polished and quiet, until a moment of tension sliced through the luxury. Layla Whitmore, dressed in a simple blush-pink dress and modest flats, stepped into the aisle with her boarding pass in hand. Before she could reach her seat, a tall flight attendant intercepted her. "Ma'am, I think there's been a mistake," said Clarissa Rowe, her tone polite but cool. "This section is reserved for first-class passengers only." Layla blinked. She looked around and then back at Clarissa, her fingers tightening slightly around the boarding pass. The subtle glances from the nearby passengers, men in tailored suits and women in couture, felt sharp, piercing. Someone stifled a chuckle, another murmured, "Not again, I have a first-class ticket," Layla said calmly, holding out the pass. Clarissa hesitated. With the air of someone handling something unclean, she took the pass between two manicured fingers. "There must be a system error," she muttered, scanning it twice with visible skepticism. She frowned. Around them, the first-class cabin buzzed with restrained curiosity. A man lowered his designer sunglasses to get a better look. A woman whispered to her partner while giving Layla a once-over. The judgment was unmistakable. Clarissa forced a smile. "Why don't I check if there's a more suitable seat in business class?" Layla stood her ground. "My husband booked this seat specifically. I belong here." "Your husband?" came a mocking voice from behind her. "Let me guess, he owns the airline." The words were meant to sting. But no one in that cabin could have imagined how close they were to the truth, or how much the next few minutes would unravel their carefully kept assumptions. Back at Whitmore Hall, Layla Whitmore stood on the veranda overlooking the rolling lawns, the late afternoon sun painting the sky in soft gold. Clutched in her hand was the blush-pink boarding pass she'd left behind at Aurora Skies Airlines, an emblem of both privilege and prejudice. Inside the drawing room, her husband, Derek Hayes, peered up from a tablet dashboard displaying real-time data on his renewable energy venture. He noted the tension in Layla's posture before she even spoke. Derek set aside his tablet. "You look unsettled," he observed gently. Layla took a measured breath. "I've never been questioned like that," she said, voice tight. "By colleagues I once called friends." She recounted how head attendant Clarissa Rowe had treated her ticket as if it were forged, her brusque suggestion that Layla relocate to the back of the plane punctuated by stifled laughter from well-heeled strangers. Derek's brow furrowed. He'd known Layla before she joined the cabin crew and launched the Whitmore Initiative for Youth, a non-profit she built from scratch to fund scholarships for underprivileged students. "It wasn't the money that hurt," Layla said quietly, "but their assumption that I didn't belong." She described how Clarissa had lingered over her simple flats and the blush dress gifted by Derek, treating each glance as evidence she was an imposter. He reached for her hand. "You've faced worse," he reminded her softly, recalling her tenacity when she'd rescued an elderly passenger mid-flight during a medical emergency. Yet this cut deeper. Layla nodded. "I could mention your name," she admitted, voice wavering. "Tell them whose wife I am, and watch them scramble. But I don't want that. Why must your name unlock my dignity?" She lifted her wrist to look at the slender silver watch Derek had given her on their 5th anniversary, an unspoken reminder that time, not titles, was the greatest gift. Derek studied her for a moment. "You're right," he agreed. "But instead of humiliation, let's provoke awareness." His eyes gleamed with resolve. "Tomorrow, I'll be on that flight. Let them learn that respect isn't earned by labels." A flicker of relief crossed Layla's face. "No spectacle," she requested. "Just the truth." "Then it's settled," Derek said, voice low but firm. "We won't shame anyone. We'll show them why prejudgment is the greater disservice." That evening, as the candles burned low in Whitmore Hall's library, Layla and Derek sketched out their plan, one built on quiet conviction rather than vengeance. When dawn broke, Aurora Skies Airlines would witness the power of standing up without shouting, and the next chapter of their shared story would begin on that very runway. At precisely 9:45 a.m. the next morning, a sleek midnight eclipse jet, a flagship of Aurora Skies Airlines, taxied to the terminal gate. Inside the cabin, head attendant Clarissa Rowe was conducting her final first-class inspection, adjusting linens and polishing chrome handles. She wore the crisp navy uniform of her rank, every gold stripe reflecting her pride in procedure. Moments later, a uniformed ground agent stepped aboard and whispered into Clarissa's earpiece, "Mr. Hayes is en route." Clarissa's expression flickered, she straightened her posture and placed a polite smile on her lips. Across the aisle, Noah Clark, the junior attendant whom Clarissa had spared her worst disdain, watched curiously. When the forward door closed and the crew took their positions, the cabin door opened again, this time revealing Derek Hayes. He entered in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit, a slim leather briefcase in one hand and a quiet confidence in every step. His deep blue tie and the subtle silver pin on his lapel marked him as someone accustomed to influence, but his demeanor was measured, respectful. The cabin fell silent. Passengers peered over champagne flutes, golden cufflinks caught the light. Clarissa advanced with practiced poise. "Welcome aboard, sir," she said, offering a clipboard. "May I confirm your seat assignment?" Derek inclined his head, handing over his first-class pass. Clarissa scanned it, once, twice, her smile taut. "2A and B, sir," she announced, gesturing toward Layla's reserved pair. "I'll ensure everything is in order." He gave a small nod. "Thank you. I trust you know my wife will be joining me shortly." Clarissa's veneer flickered. "Of course, sir." Yet her tone lacked the previous coldness, she looked unsettled. Derek set his case on the floor. "Actually," he continued, voice calm but carrying the weight of command, "I wanted to speak with you before the rest of the service begins." He met Clarissa's eyes precisely. "About my wife's experience yesterday." Heat tinted Clarissa's cheeks. "Sir, Layla Whitmore holds a valid ticket," Derek said, voice low enough that only Clarissa and Noah could hear. Yet she was publicly questioned and nearly removed. "I grew concerned when I learned of her treatment." Behind them, Noah shifted, remembering how kindly Layla had once mentored him during his training. Derek turned slightly so his gaze swept the cabin, making each passenger aware they were witnessing more than a routine check. "Respect isn't granted by attire," Derek added. "It's earned by character." The words resonated. A hush spread, jeweled necklaces ceased glinting. Clarissa swallowed, glancing at Noah, whose sympathetic nod reaffirmed Derek's decision. "Thank you for listening," Derek said, turning to leave. "I'll be in my seat. I expect a professional atmosphere for all guests." As he walked away, Clarissa exhaled, her pride bruised but awake to a lesson far deeper than policy. In that moment, the power dynamic shifted, effortlessly, irrevocably, reminding everyone that a measured voice can carry more authority than a raised one. After settling into seat 2A, Derek Hayes offered a polite nod to Noah Clark, who promptly returned with a glass of sparkling water. The cabin resumed its quiet hum, but the undercurrent of tension lingered. Clarissa Rowe hovered by the service trolley, her usual brisk efficiency tempered by a new wariness. When the safety demonstration concluded and the engines whirred to life, Derek rose and approached Clarissa. "Ms. Rowe, may I have a moment?" he asked softly. Clarissa's shoulders stiffened, but she indicated a nearby galley alcove. "Yes, Mr. Hayes." He stepped in, folding his hands. "Yesterday's incident demands more than an apology," he began. "Aurora Skies Airlines must confront its own assumptions. Therefore, I propose the following." Clarissa listened, face serious. Derek continued, "First, a mandatory unconscious bias workshop for all first-class crew, scheduled within the next fortnight. I trust you can coordinate with our headquarters training division." She swallowed, recalling how she dismissed Layla's credentials without a second thought. "Of course, sir." "Second," he said, "I'd like you to volunteer at the Whitmore Initiative for Youth for 1 month. Your role will be hands-on, mentoring students, assisting with logistics, even teaching cabin safety basics to children with mobility challenges. No formal uniform, work alongside them as an equal. Clarissa's breath caught. "Sir, I'm honored by the trust, but I worry my staff." "Don't worry about staff," Derek interjected kindly. "Let them learn, too." Clarissa looked down at her polished shoes, suddenly aware of their distance from the ground. "I understand." Derek gave a small, appreciative smile. "Lastly, Ms. Rowe, while you're fulfilling these duties, I'd like Noah Clark to oversee all first-class services on this flight. His professionalism, compassion, and attention to detail reflect the standards we aim to uphold." Noah, standing quietly nearby, offered a respectful bow. "Thank you, sir. I'll do my best." Derek placed a hand on Clarissa's shoulder, gentle, not grand. "We shape culture by action, not rhetoric. I expect that by the time you return, Aurora Skies will be better for it." Clarissa's eyes glistened with a mix of regret and determination. "I won't let you down." As Derek returned to Layla's side, the cabin's atmosphere felt subtly altered, clearer, more attentive. Passengers who had once averted their gaze now exchanged nods with Noah. Service resumed, not as a hierarchy of status, but as a demonstration of respect restored. Above the gentle hum of flight, Aurora Skies had taken its first steps toward genuine inclusivity, fueled by the quiet insistence of a man who believed that empathy, once practiced, becomes policy. For weeks later, the grand ballroom of the Willowcrest Hotel was alive with celebration. The Whitmore Initiative for Youth's Unity Gala welcomed philanthropists, educators, and families whose lives had been transformed. Chandeliers cast warm light on the crowd, and the scent of fresh florals mingled with soft piano music. Near the entrance, Clarissa Rowe moved with purpose in a simple black blouse and slacks, far removed from her crisp airline uniform. She carried registration lists, guided guests to tables, and knelt to adjust a wheelchair ramp for a young participant. Her polished confidence had been replaced by genuine care. At the podium, Layla Whitmore, now in an understated yet elegant teal gown, addressed the assembly. She thanked supporters for funding scholarships that had helped dozens of children attend specialized schools. Her voice resonated with heartfelt gratitude. When the speeches concluded, Layla spotted Clarissa assisting a teenager named Jasmine, who had lost mobility in an accident. Clarissa's gentle encouragement as Jasmine tested an adaptive sports prototype was a far cry from the haughty dismissal Layla had endured. Afterward, Layla approached her. "Ms. Rowe," she said warmly, "it's good to see you here." Clarissa straightened, wiping her palms on her slacks. "Mrs. Whitmore, thank you for welcoming me. This experience, it's changed how I see service." Layla nodded. "We all have room to grow. I'm proud of how you've embraced this mission." Clarissa met Layla's gaze, emotion flickering. "I want to apologize for my actions on that flight. I misjudged you, and treated you as though you didn't belong. I'm truly sorry." Layla offered a gentle smile. "Apology accepted. What matters most is what comes next." At a corner table, Derek Hayes stood talking with Noah Clark, who had quietly overseen the gala's audio setup. Derek caught Layla's eye and raised his glass. She joined him, and they wove through the crowd to offer thanks to major donors. Later, as dessert was served, Clarissa found Layla and Derek again. "If there is ever a future role in the airline where I can ensure every passenger feels respected," she began, voice steady, "I would be honored to take it on." Derek clasped her hand. "Your dedication proves you already have." Then, turning to Layla, he added quietly, "I'm proud of you, for standing your ground, and for leading with grace." In that moment, the gala's light seemed to glow a little brighter. Clarissa's humility and Layla's compassion intertwined to create something far more powerful than any scripted policy, an authentic culture of respect, born from an encounter that began with prejudice but culminated in redemption. As the Unity Gala wound down, Derek Hayes escorted Layla toward the private veranda, moonlight glinting on the hotel's reflecting pool. The soft rustle of evening breeze carried distant laughter from the festivities inside. Clarissa Rowe watched them from the threshold, poised yet reflective. Moments later, Derek gestured toward Clarissa. "Ms. Rowe," he said, "thank you for everything you've done tonight." Clarissa inclined her head. "It was an honor to help." Derek turned to Layla. "My dear, we have one more item to discuss." He smiled at Clarissa. "Ms. Rowe, as you know, Aurora Skies is expanding its corporate travel program. We manage travel for several multinationals and non-profit partners." Clarissa's eyes lifted in interest. "Yes, sir." Derek continued, "I'd like you to lead our customer experience division. Your time at the foundation has shown you can connect with people from all walks of life. We need that perspective in our senior management." Clarissa's breath caught. "You're offering me an executive role?" "Not as a favor," Derek clarified. "Because you've earned it. Your actions have demonstrated empathy, leadership, and the courage to change." He paused, letting the significance sink in. "Will you accept?" Tears shimmered in Clarissa's eyes. I would be deeply honored, Mr. Hayes." "Thank you." Derek nodded. "Start next Monday. We'll arrange your transition training. And Noah Clark," he called to the junior attendant, "I'd like you to be her assistant during the onboarding." Noah smiled broadly. "Absolutely, sir." "Thank you." Derek and Layla exchanged a glance. "We believe culture change happens from the top down," Layla said softly. "Lead with integrity, and others will follow." Clarissa fought emotion. "I promise I'll do whatever it takes." As they shook hands, the three of them stood beneath the starlit sky, the gala laughter drifting through the open doors behind them. The evening's events had come full circle, from discrimination aboard a flight to a renewed commitment to respect and inclusivity. Inside, guests clapped for a final farewell. Outside, Aurora Skies Airlines had its next chapter, one guided by someone who knew both the sting of prejudice and the power of redemption. And under that serene sky, Layla and Derek felt confident that their message of dignity would soar far beyond any runway. A week later, Layla and Derek retired to their suite at Seabreeze Resort, perched on a cliff overlooking the Pacific. The sound of gentle waves mingled with the distant hum of a seaside town. Layla sank into a chaise lounge, breeze lifting her hair. Derek poured 2 glasses of white wine. "You look peaceful," he observed, handing her a glass. Layla inhaled the salt-tinged air. "I am," she admitted. "Seeing Aurora Skies change so quickly, it feels surreal." Derek sat beside her. "You stood up not just for yourself, but for everyone who's ever been judged." He paused. "Does it feel vindicating?" She smiled faintly. "Not vindictive, just right." She lifted her glass. "To people who grow, and systems that learn." They clinked glasses. Layla traced the rim thoughtfully. "I still miss the simplicity of my old job as a flight attendant," she confessed, glancing at her silver watch. "But I can see how my experiences shaped me." Derek reached for her hand. "That's why I created the Director of Customer Experience position, for someone exactly like you." He sipped his wine. "I wanted to surprise you here, but I'm glad it happened on that flight. It set everything in motion." Layla's eyes glistened. "You always believed in me, even when I doubted myself." He leaned in, voice soft. "I fell in love with the woman who treated every passenger, from CEO to child traveling alone, with the same respect. That never changed." She rested her head on his shoulder, gazing out at the moonlit water. "What's next?" she murmured. Derek wrapped an arm around her. "A new era at Aurora Skies. Your voice will guide policy. And our foundation will partner more closely, ensuring empathy becomes standard." Layla sighed happily. "I wouldn't trade this journey for anything." She reflected, the boarding pass that began as an insult had become an invitation, to leadership, to change, and to shared purpose. As night deepened, they sat in comfortable silence, the ocean's rhythmic pulse reminding them that true transformation, like the tides, takes both conviction and time. The next morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, Layla and Derek walked hand in hand along the beach. Soft sand sifted between their toes. Nearby, children from the Whitmore Initiative collected shells, their laughter echoing like hopeful bells. Layla paused to watch them. "Do you think people will really change?" she wondered aloud. Derek squeezed her hand. "They already have. Look at Ms. Rowe," he said, nodding toward Clarissa, who chatted animatedly with two guests. "She's mentoring our new recruits in person." Layla watched as Clarissa guided a trainee through cabin service techniques, her tone patient and encouraging. "That's the most powerful transformation of all," Layla said. "When someone chooses humility over hierarchy." They strolled to the water's edge, where waves left fleeting imprints on the sand. Layla bent to trace a heart shape, then turned to Derek. "Thank you, for listening to the voice of dignity, not ego." Derek smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Thank you, for reminding me why respect matters." He gestured toward the shell-collecting children. "That's our real reward, seeing lives changed for the better." As they headed back to the resort's terrace, Layla reflected on the journey, a simple boarding pass, a moment of prejudice, and a decision to confront it with grace. Now, Aurora Skies Airlines would carry that lesson to every corner of the world. At the Terrace Café, guests sipped coffee and took in the view. A banner announced the new Customer Experience Leadership Seminar, led by Layla Whitmore herself. She glanced at Derek, who gave her an encouraging nod. She raised her cup in a quiet salute. "To dignity," she said softly. "May it always outshine appearance." Derek leaned forward. "And to legacy," he added. "May our actions teach others to fly higher, on wings of empathy." As they clinked mugs beneath the rising sun, the future felt as boundless as the sea before them, and every journey, no matter how small the step, carried the promise of profound change.